The grand hall of the Galactic Council was filled with worried voices. Representatives from 100 different worlds sat in their designated seats, all talking at once. The blue lights from the ceiling made everyone look strange and concerned. Ambassador Or raised his 3 arms to call for silence. 6 months, he said loudly. Earth has been silent for 6 months. The hall became quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. Earth, the young planet that had joined the Council only 100 years ago, had stopped responding to all messages. Their communication systems were still working. Satellites still orbited their planet. Ships still moved around their solar system. But no human would answer any calls. On the far side of the hall, a tall alien with silver skin stood up. Her name was, and she represented one of the oldest civilizations in the Council. Perhaps they are dead, she said simply. A plague, a war. These young species are always killing themselves. Several members nodded in agreement. Humans had always been strange. They learned too fast. They asked too many questions. They never seemed satisfied with the answers the Council gave them. Maybe they had finally destroyed themselves. But Or shook his head. Our observers on Earth report that humans are alive and well. They are busy building something. Factories are running day and night. Ships are being constructed, but they will not tell us what they are doing. Then we must demand answers, another voice called out. This came from a short, round alien covered in green scales. Earth agreed to follow Council laws when they joined. They must report their activities to us. The debate continued for hours. Some wanted to send military ships to Earth. Others said they should wait and be patient. A few suggested cutting off trade with the human world until they started talking again, but they could not agree on anything. Finally, Or made a decision. I will go to Earth myself, he announced. I will take a diplomatic ship and speak directly to their leaders. They cannot ignore an ambassador who stands at their door. 3 days later, Or's ship entered Earth's solar system. It was a beautiful ship, white and gold, designed to look peaceful and important. As they passed Mars, the ship's sensors detected something unusual. There were objects in space that had not been there before. Large platforms with weapons mounted on them floated in the darkness. This is new, the ship's captain muttered. He was a blue-skinned alien who had visited Earth many times before. Humans did not have these defenses 6 months ago. Before Or could respond, a small human ship appeared in front of them. It was gray and angular, with no decorations or windows visible on its hull. A communication signal came through immediately. This is Captain Jin of the Earth Defense Force, a calm voice said. Ambassador Or, you are not permitted to approach Earth at this time. Or stood up, trying to look dignified. I am an official representative of the Galactic Council. I demand to speak with your leaders immediately. This silence is unacceptable. There was a pause, then Captain Jin spoke again. Humanity appreciates the Council's concern. We are fine. We will contact you when we are ready. Do not approach any further. But this is against all protocols, Or protested. You have obligations to the Council. You must explain what you are doing. We must do nothing, Jin replied. His voice was still calm, but there was steel in it now. We followed your rules for 100 years, Ambassador. Now we are choosing a different path. Please turn your ship around. Or felt anger rising in his chest. No one spoke to a Council ambassador this way. And if I refuse? Then we will escort you out of our system, Jin said. We do not wish to be rude, but we will defend our boundaries. This is your only warning. The ambassador looked at his captain, who was checking the sensor readings with growing alarm. Sir, the captain whispered, that small ship has weapon systems I have never seen before, and there are 50 more just like it appearing on our screens. They must have been hiding somehow. Or felt his confidence draining away. He had come here expecting to find a weak, isolated planet that needed the Council's help. Instead, he found weapons and defenses and a human who spoke like he had all the power in this conversation. "We are leaving," Or finally said. "But the council will hear about this. There will be consequences." "We understand," Captain Jin replied. "Safe travels, Ambassador." The diplomatic ship turned around and began its long journey back to Council space. Behind them, the small human ships disappeared again, vanishing from sensors as if they had never existed, or sat in his quarters, writing his report, trying to find the right words to explain what had happened. Back on Earth, Captain Jin landed his ship at a military base hidden deep in the mountains. Admiral Wu was waiting for him, a stern woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. "How did it go?" she asked. "Exactly as expected," Jin replied. "They are confused and angry. The council will try to figure out what we are doing." "Let them try," Wu said with a slight smile. "By the time they understand, it will be too late to stop us." In another part of the base, Doctor sat in a laboratory surrounded by screens and machines. She was a small woman with glasses and tired eyes from working long hours. On her screens were equations and designs that would change everything. She had solved problems that the council's best scientists said were impossible. "How much longer?" someone asked. It was Director Young, a tall man who managed the entire operation. 3 months, Doctor replied without looking up from her work. "Maybe less. The first ships are almost ready. And the council suspects nothing. They think we are building weapons to threaten them," Doctor said with a tired laugh. "They cannot imagine what we are really doing. They have been in space for 10,000 years, but they stopped dreaming a long time ago." Director Young nodded. "Then we stay silent. Let them wonder. Let them worry. When we are ready, the whole galaxy will see what humans can do." That night, Commander stood on a balcony overlooking the construction yards. He had been Earth's voice to the Council for 20 years. He had smiled and nodded and followed their rules. But he had also been watching and learning and planning. In the yards below, thousands of ships were being built. They were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Faster, stronger, better. And every single one was ready to carry humans to places the Council had never dared to explore. Looked up at the stars and smiled. The silence would not last forever. Soon, humanity would speak again. And when they did, the entire galaxy would have no choice but to listen. The emergency council meeting lasted 3 full days. Ambassador told them everything that had happened at Earth. The weapons platforms, the hidden ships, the human captain who spoke with such confidence. Many council members were afraid. Some were angry. A few were curious about what humans were really doing. The silver-skinned elder stood before the assembly. "We must know the truth," she declared. "I propose sending a covert investigation fleet, small ships, silent observers. They will watch Earth from a distance and report what they find." The vote was close, but the motion passed. Within a week, 10 small council ships were heading toward Earth's solar system. They were designed to be nearly invisible, using the best stealth technology the council had developed over thousands of years. The fleet commander was confident they would never be detected. They arrived at the outer edge of Earth's system and began their observations. What they saw made them immediately send urgent messages back to the council. Humans were everywhere. Not just on Earth, but on Mars, on several moons, on asteroids throughout the system. Massive construction projects covered every available surface. Thousands of ships moved between the planets, carrying materials and equipment. But that was not the most shocking part. The ships themselves were wrong. They moved too fast. They accelerated in ways that should have torn them apart. The council's scientists studied the sensor data and could not explain what they were seeing. These ships used technology that did not match anything in the council's databases. "Impossible," one scientist muttered as he reviewed the reports. "Those acceleration rates would kill any crew inside. The gravitational forces alone would crush their organs." But the ships kept moving, faster and faster, performing maneuvers that no council vessel could match. Then the investigation fleet noticed something else. Ships were leaving. Large groups of human vessels were departing the solar system, but they were not heading toward Council space. They were going in the opposite direction, out into unexplored regions of the galaxy where no one had ever bothered to look. "We need to follow them," the fleet commander decided. "The Council must know where these humans are going." 5 investigation ships broke away from the group and began tracking a human expedition fleet. They stayed far back, using every trick they knew to remain hidden. For 3 days, they followed the human ships deeper into unknown space. On the human flagship, Lieutenant Na sat at her pilot station, watching her screens with amusement. She was young, barely 30, with quick reflexes and sharper eyes. She had been tracking the Council ships since they entered the solar system. "They think they are being clever," she said to her commander. "Should I lose them, or should we teach them a lesson?" The commander, an older man named Park, considered the options. "We have our orders. Show them what we can do, but do not harm them. Just make it very clear that we know they are there." Na grinned. "Yes, sir, this will be fun." She touched her controls, and the human ship suddenly accelerated to speeds the Council vessels could not match. Within seconds, the human fleet had traveled a distance that should have taken hours. The investigation ships tried to follow, but they were hopelessly outpaced. Then Na did something that made the Council crews panic. She turned her ship around and came back. In less than a minute, she was directly behind the investigation fleet. Her targeting systems locked onto all 5 ships simultaneously. "Attention Council vessels," Na's voice came through their communication systems. "You are not as hidden as you think. Power down your weapons and engines immediately." The Council ships had no choice. They watched in horror as beams of energy shot from the human ship, precisely disabling their weapon systems without destroying anything. Then Na's ship deployed a towing field, something the Council scientists did not even know was possible, and began pulling all 5 ships back toward Earth's solar system. It took 2 days to reach the edge of the system. Na released the Council ships and sent them a final message. "Your crews are unharmed. Your ships can be repaired. Please respect our boundaries. Do not make us repeat this lesson." The investigation ships limped back to Council space, humiliated and confused. The reports they sent caused chaos in the Council chambers. Back on Earth, Engineer stood in his workshop, surrounded by the components of humanity's latest breakthrough. He was a middle-aged man with rough hands and oil stains on his clothes. He had spent 20 years studying Council technology, learning everything he could. Then he had spent another 10 years making it better. "The Council's engines are efficient," he explained to a group of visiting officials, "but they are designed for safety above all else. They limit acceleration to protect fragile alien bodies. Humans can withstand much more, so we built engines that take advantage of our natural resilience." One official, a nervous man in a suit, asked the obvious question, "But do the pilots not get hurt? Those acceleration rates seem extreme." Smiled. "They train for it. Special exercises, modified pressure suits. And yes, it is uncomfortable, but humans have always been willing to endure discomfort for greater speed and capability. The Council races are not." In another facility, Doctor was presenting her findings to a group of engineers. Her research had led to the breakthrough that changed everything. She had discovered that the Council's understanding of faster-than-light travel was incomplete. They had found one way to break the light barrier, but there were others. Better ways. More efficient ways. "The Council stopped innovating thousands of years ago," she explained, pointing to equations on a large screen. "They found a method that worked, and they never looked for improvements. But I started from scratch, questioning every assumption, and I found something they missed." The engineers listened carefully as she explained the new propulsion system. It was dangerous to develop. 3 test ships had been destroyed during early experiments. 12 people had died, but humans had accepted those losses and kept trying. The Council would have stopped after the first failure. Now the technology worked perfectly. Human ships could travel 3 times faster than the best Council vessels, and that was just the beginning. Director Young received all these reports in his office, a simple room with a view of the construction yards. He was the one who had convinced Earth's government to take this bold step, to turn away from the Council and forge their own path. "How are the colonies progressing?" he asked his assistant. "The first settlement is complete," the assistant replied, checking his tablet. "Governor Saul reports that all systems are functioning. The planet is harsh, but the colonists are adapting well." Young nodded with satisfaction. The planet they had chosen would have been rejected by the Council as the gravity was too strong, the atmosphere was too thin, the temperature swings were too extreme. But humans had modified their bodies with genetic treatments and built habitats that could withstand anything. In just 6 months, they had created a thriving colony where the Council said nothing could survive. Back at the Council chambers, emergency sessions were being held every day. The reports from the investigation fleet had terrified many members. Some called for immediate military action against Earth. Others argued for caution, saying that confronting humans might be dangerous. Stood before the Council again, her silver skin seeming to glow in the blue light. "We must face the truth," she said quietly. "In 100 years, humanity has surpassed us in multiple fields. They have developed technology we thought impossible. They have colonized worlds we considered worthless. And they did it all while we ignored them and thought ourselves superior. So what do you suggest?" Or asked bitterly. "Do we simply accept that these young, aggressive creatures are now more advanced than we are?" "We must understand them," replied. "We must learn why they progressed so quickly while we stagnated. And we must decide if we are brave enough to change ourselves, or if we will cling to our old ways and become irrelevant." The debate continued, but everyone knew the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer the young species asking for guidance. They were something new and powerful, and they were moving forward whether the Council approved or not. 8 months after Earth's silence began, a message finally arrived at the Galactic Council headquarters. It was short and direct, signed by Commander. "The Council is invited to send 1 diplomatic vessel to the following coordinates. Come alone, come unarmed. We are ready to talk." The coordinates pointed to a location far outside Council territory, in a region of space that had been marked as uninhabitable on all official maps, or volunteered to go, despite the concerns of other Council members. He wanted answers, and he was tired of being kept in the dark. The diplomatic ship traveled for 5 days before reaching the designated coordinates. When they arrived, Orr and his crew could not believe what they saw through their viewing ports. A planet hung in space before them, blue and green and alive. Cities dotted its surface, their lights visible even from orbit. Ships moved between the planet and several orbital stations. Everything looked organized and established, as if this colony had existed for decades instead of months. "Impossible," the ship's captain whispered. "This planet should not support life. The gravity is twice Earth normal. The radiation levels are extreme. How are humans living here?" Before anyone could answer, a human ship approached them. It was sleek and fast, bearing no weapons but radiating confidence. A communication channel opened, and Commander's face appeared on their screens. "Ambassador Orr," said with a slight smile, "welcome to New Sol, humanity's first independent colony. Please follow our escort ship to the surface. We have much to show you." The landing was smooth, bringing them to a large facility built into the side of a mountain. As Orr stepped out of his ship, he immediately felt the difference in gravity. It pressed down on him, making every movement difficult. His bodyguards struggled to walk properly. But the humans around them moved easily, as if the heavy gravity meant nothing. "Walked up to," Orr extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. He was a fit man in his 50s, with gray in his hair and calm eyes that had seen many years of diplomatic service. "The gravity is challenging, yes," said. "We can provide assistance if you need it." Or accepted a hovering chair that would help support his weight. "How are you doing this?" he asked. "Your people should be crushed under this gravity." "We adapted," replied simply. "Genetic modifications, enhanced bone density, stronger muscles, and training, of course. Humans are very good at adapting to difficult environments." They entered the facility and began the tour. He showed them the colony's power systems, which used geothermal energy from the planet's active core. He showed them the farms, where modified crops grew in the heavy gravity and produced more food than traditional methods. He showed them the schools, where human children played and studied under conditions that would hospitalize most alien species. "Why here?" or asked as they walked through a bustling market area. "Why choose such a difficult planet?" Stopped and turned to face the ambassador. "Because the council would never want it," he said honestly. "For 10,000 years, your people have explored the galaxy. You found the easy planets, the comfortable worlds, the places where life requires minimal effort. You left the difficult places alone because they were too much trouble." "And humans want the difficult places?" or asked, confused. "We want the places no one else wants," corrected. "We want the freedom to build our own civilization without someone telling us we are doing it wrong. The Council has rules for everything: how to govern, how to trade, how to develop technology, how to think. After 100 years, we realized we would never be truly independent while we followed those rules." They reached a large conference room where other humans were waiting. Governor Saul stood at the head of the table, a strong woman with sun-darkened skin and commanding presence. She had been a military officer before becoming the colony's first governor. "Please sit," she said, gesturing to chairs that had been specially prepared for the council delegates. "We know this is difficult for you to understand. Let us try to explain." For the next 3 hours, the humans presented their case. They showed data, charts, comparisons, and evidence. They explained how the council's bureaucracy had slowed human progress. They described how council regulations prevented humans from taking the risks necessary for innovation. They demonstrated how council technology, while reliable, was outdated and inefficient. Doctor joined the meeting via video link from Earth. Her tired face appeared on a large screen, and she began explaining her research in simple terms that even the council delegates could understand. "The council found one way to travel faster than light," she said, showing equations and diagrams. "It works, so you stopped looking for better methods. But I asked a simple question: why is this the only way? I started over, built new theories from scratch, and found 3 more methods. One of them is 3 times faster than your current technology. Another uses 90% less energy. Why did you not share this with the council?" or asked, his voice tight with frustration. "We could have helped you develop it safely. We have resources and experience." "We presented early versions of this research to council scientists 8 years ago," Doctor replied calmly. "They dismissed it as impossible. They said I did not understand the fundamental principles. They refused to even test my theories, so we tested them ourselves." "And people died during those tests," another council delegate said accusingly. "We read the reports. 12 humans were killed in failed experiments." The room became quiet. Then Engineer spoke up. He had been sitting quietly in the corner, but now he stood to address the council. "Yes, 12 people died," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I knew 6 of them personally. They were volunteers. They knew the risks. They believed in what we were doing. And because of their sacrifice, thousands of humans are now living on worlds like this one, free to build the future they want." "The council does not accept such losses," or said stiffly. "Safety is our highest priority." "And that is why you have stagnated," Governor Saul replied, not unkindly. "You are so focused on safety that you have stopped growing. You have stopped dreaming. You have stopped pushing boundaries. For thousands of years, you have been comfortable and safe and utterly stagnant. Stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the colony below. We did not want to leave the council out of hatred or anger, he said quietly. We left because we could not breathe under your protection. You treated us like children who needed constant supervision. You gave us technology but forbade us from improving it. You gave us knowledge but controlled how we used it. He turned back to face Or. We are not your enemy's ambassador. We are not trying to threaten the council. We simply want to go our own way. There is an entire galaxy out there that you have ignored. We want to explore it. We want to take risks. We want to fail and learn and try again. That is what humans do. Captain entered the room, a young officer with confident bearing. The council ship will be ready to depart within the hour, she reported. The tour ships are prepared if the delegates wish to see more of the colony. Or stood up slowly, his mind spinning with everything he had learned. How many colonies do you have now? He asked quietly. This is the first, replied. But we are building 17 more. In 10 years we will have 100. In 50 years we will have spread to regions of the galaxy that the council does not even have maps for. And you expect the council to simply accept this? Smiled sadly. We hope the council will accept this, but if you do not, we will continue anyway. We are not asking for permission, Ambassador. We are informing you of what we are doing. The age of human dependence on the council is over. A new age has begun, whether you like it or not. The council delegates were given a final tour of the colony before returning to their ship. They saw human children playing in parks built under crushing gravity. They saw engineers designing new buildings that would have been impossible by council standards. They saw scientists conducting experiments that the council would have forbidden as too dangerous. As Or's ship lifted off from New Sol, he looked down at the colony one last time. His emotions were mixed: fear, anger, concern, but also a strange feeling he had not experienced in centuries. It took him a moment to identify it. It was awe. He was witnessing something new and unprecedented. Humanity was not just another species joining the galactic community. They were a force that would change everything. And deep down, beneath his concern and worry, Or wondered if perhaps the council needed to be changed. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos when Or finished his report. Delegates shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some called for war. Others demanded sanctions. A few sat quietly, their faces showing deep concern. The silver-skinned elder finally managed to restore order. We must make a decision, she announced. Humanity has made their intentions clear. They will not return to the council's authority. The question is, what will we do about it? Over the next week, the council split into 3 factions. The largest group, led by Ambassador Or, wanted to contain humanity. They proposed a blockade of all human colonies, economic sanctions, and military pressure to force Earth back into compliance. They argued that allowing humanity to break away would encourage other species to do the same, destroying the council's authority. The second faction wanted negotiation. They believed humanity could be convinced to compromise, to work within council guidelines while maintaining some independence. This group was smaller and less influential. The third faction, the smallest of all, was led by. They believed humanity was right, that the council had become too rigid and comfortable. They argued for learning from humans rather than fighting them. But few council members wanted to hear this message. The vote came quickly. By a large majority, the council approved a military blockade. Within days, the largest armada assembled in centuries began moving toward human space. Over 500 ships from 30 different species, all unified in purpose: stop humanity's expansion. Admiral Wu received the intelligence reports in her office on Earth. She studied the numbers carefully, her face showing no emotion. After years of military service, she had learned to stay calm even when facing overwhelming odds. 500 ships, her second-in-command said nervously. Admiral, we only have 200 combat-ready vessels. Even with our technological advantage, those numbers are concerning. Wu looked up at him with steady eyes. Numbers only matter if they can catch us. Begin moving our civilian ships to safety. Recall all colony expeditions. And send a message to Commander. Tell him it is time. Received the message on New Seoul. He had been expecting this, but the reality still hit him hard. For 100 years, he had worked to build bridges between humanity and the Council. Now those bridges were burning. Are we really going to fight them? Governor Saul asked, standing beside him as they watched the colony below. We are going to defend ourselves, replied. There is a difference. We will not fire first, but if they try to stop us, we will show them why that is a mistake. The Council Armada positioned itself at the border of human-claimed space, forming a massive wall of ships that stretched across multiple star systems. Their commander, a stern alien named, sent a simple message to all human vessels. By order of the Galactic Council, all human expansion beyond your home system must cease immediately. All colony ships will return to Earth. All new settlements will be abandoned. You have 48 hours to comply. Admiral Wu's response was equally simple, no. For 3 weeks, both sides stared at each other across the darkness of space. Human ships patrolled the border of their territory. The Council Armada waited, hoping humans would surrender without a fight. Tensions grew with each passing day. Then the Council made their move. They detected a human colony ship traveling toward a new world, escorted by only 3 defense vessels, saw an opportunity to demonstrate the Council's power without risking a full battle. He sent 30 ships to intercept and capture the colony vessel. Captain commanded the defense force. She was young but experienced, having trained under Admiral Wu herself. When her sensors detected the approaching Council ships, she did not panic. They outnumber us 10-1, her weapons officer reported. Then they should feel very confident, replied calmly. Send the colony ship on ahead at maximum speed. We will handle this. The 3 human ships moved to intercept the Council force. Watched from his flagship, expecting the humans to surrender when they saw how badly they were outnumbered. Instead, he received a communication from Captain. Council ships, you are entering human-protected space. Turn back now. Almost laughed, 3 small ships against 30 of the Council's finest. Surrender your colony ship, he ordered. This is your final warning. No, replied, this is yours. The human ships suddenly accelerated to speeds that made the Council crews gasp in shock. Within seconds, they were among the Council formation, moving so fast that targeting systems could not lock on. Ship performed maneuvers that should have killed everyone aboard, pulling turns at gravitational forces that would have crushed most species. The Council ships fired, but their weapons could not track targets moving that quickly. The humans did not fire back with weapons. Instead, they used precision energy beams to disable engines and weapon systems. One by one, Council ships went dark, their crews unharmed but helpless. In 15 minutes, it was over. 27 Council ships were disabled. 3 had managed to retreat. Not a single shot had actually struck a human vessel. Captain broadcast a message on all frequencies. We do not want war. We never wanted war. But we will not be caged. Every Council ship in this sector has 48 hours to leave human space. If you return, we will not be so gentle. The news of the skirmish reached the Council within hours. Was humiliated. His carefully planned interception had turned into a disaster. But more than that, the Council was forced to face an uncomfortable truth. Their ships could not compete with human vessels in combat. The military advantage they had counted on did not exist. Engineer watched the battle recordings from his workshop on Earth. He felt both pride and sadness. Pride because his designs had worked perfectly. Sadness because those designs were being used in combat instead of exploration. "The Council still does not understand," he said to his assistant. "They think this is about weapons and military power. They do not see that we built these ships to explore dangerous places, not to fight wars." His assistant nodded, "But the ships work very well for both purposes." "Yes," admitted. "That is the problem with tools. They can be used for many things, whether we intended them to or not." Back at the Council, the containment faction was losing support. Several species had seen the battle recordings and were quietly pulling their ships back from the blockade. They had not signed up to face such overwhelming tactical disadvantage. Doctor did something that shocked everyone. She published her complete research, making it freely available to any species that wanted to access it. Every theory, every equation, every experimental result, all of it open for anyone to study and use. "Why would you do this?" or demanded in an angry message. "You have given away your greatest advantage." Doctor looked tired but determined in her video response. "Because this was never about advantage, Ambassador. This was about progress. If the Council species want to learn and grow, they can use our research. If they want to remain comfortable and stagnant, they can ignore it. But I will not hoard knowledge while the galaxy stands still." Her decision created chaos within the Council. Some species immediately began studying the human research, assigning their best scientists to understand and adapt the new technologies. Other species accused these groups of betraying the Council. The unity that had held the Armada together began to crack. Captain Jin, who had first turned away 8 months ago, was now negotiating with individual Council species. Several of them approached humanity separately, offering peace treaties and trade agreements without waiting for Council approval. "The blockade is falling apart," he reported to Admiral Wu. 10 species have already withdrawn their ships. 15 more are considering it." Wu nodded slowly. "And the others?" "They are the stubborn ones. They believe their honor is at stake. They will need more convincing." "Then we will convince them," Wu said. "But only with defense, never with aggression. We must prove that we truly want peace, not conquest." Director Young watched everything from Earth, coordinating the complex dance of diplomacy and defense. He had gambled that the Council would fracture under pressure, and his gamble was proving correct. The Council had maintained peace for thousands of years by ensuring all species stayed weak and dependent. But humanity had broken that pattern, and now others wanted to follow. The question was no longer whether humanity would be allowed to go their own way. The question was whether the Galactic Council itself would survive what humanity had started. Change was coming to the galaxy, and it could not be stopped by ships or sanctions or warnings. It could only be accepted or resisted, and resistance was becoming more difficult every day. 1 year after Earth's silence began, Commander stood in a conference room on a neutral station that orbited a dead star halfway between Council and human space. Across the table sat representatives from 63 different species, including Ambassador Or. The Galactic Council was here to negotiate, but not as the unified authority it once was. "The blockade failed," said simply, opening the discussions. The silver-skinned elder had become something unexpected in the past months, humanity's strongest advocate within the Council. Multiple species made separate peace with Earth. Others are using human technology without authorization. The Council's authority is broken. We are here to acknowledge reality, not to dictate terms." Or looked uncomfortable but nodded. He had changed over the past year. The confident ambassador who had once demanded Earth's compliance now seemed older and less certain. "What does humanity want?" he asked. Director Young spoke for Earth, with Commander sitting beside him. "We want what we have taken," he said clearly. "Recognition of our sovereignty, recognition of our colonies, freedom to explore unclaimed space without Council interference, and we want trade agreements that are fair, not one-sided." "And in return?" another delegate asked. We will respect existing council territories, answered. We will not expand into space you have already claimed. We will share certain technologies, though not all, and we offer humanitarian aid to any species that needs it. Why would you help us? Or asked suspiciously, after we tried to contain you to force you back under our authority. Smiled sadly. Because we do not hate you, Ambassador. We never did. We simply could not live by your rules, but that does not mean we want to see you suffer or fail. The negotiations continued for weeks. Each species had different concerns, different needs, different fears. But slowly, agreements were formed. Humanity gained official recognition of their independent colonies. Trade routes were established. Borders were defined. And the Council, humbled by their failure, agreed to allow humanity to explore regions they had long ignored. But then Doctor arrived at the station with Engineer and Scientist Ho, and they presented something that changed everything once again. We are planning expeditions to other galaxies, Doctor announced during a general session. Her words caused shocked silence. We have developed the technology to travel to Andromeda and beyond. We will be sending ships within 6 months. Impossible, several delegates said at once. Intergalactic travel is theoretically possible but practically impossible. The distances are too vast. The energy requirements are too high. Scientist Ho, a quiet woman who specialized in exotic physics, stepped forward. It was impossible with your technology, she said politely. But we found new methods. We can show you the mathematics if you wish. Why are you telling us this? Asked. Because we are offering partnerships, Engineer explained. Any species that wants to join our expeditions is welcome. We will share the ships. We will share the resources. We will share whatever we discover. The chamber erupted with debate. Some species were interested. Many were afraid. A few thought it was a trick. But several younger delegates, representatives of species that had felt constrained by the Council's conservative approach, listened with growing excitement. Governor Saul attended the conference via video link from New Seoul. Let me be clear, she said, her strong voice cutting through the noise. We are going whether anyone joins us or not, but we would prefer to have companions. The universe is vast. There is room for everyone who has the courage to explore it. Over the next month, 5 species agreed to join humanity's intergalactic expeditions. They were not the largest or most powerful species in the Council. They were the curious ones, the brave ones, the ones who had felt stifled by 10,000 years of stagnation. The agreements were complex. Each species would contribute resources and crew members. Human ships would carry them, but command would be shared. All discoveries would be distributed equally. It was a new kind of cooperation, based on mutual interest rather than hierarchical authority. Admiral Wu oversaw the construction of the first intergalactic vessel from Earth's orbital shipyards. It was massive, 3 times the size of the largest Council ship, designed to carry 1,000 people on a journey that might last years. But it was also beautiful, sleek and powerful, representing the best of human engineering. This is the ship that will carry us to Andromeda, she told the assembled crew during the launch ceremony. Humans, yes, but also our partners from 5 different species. We go together as equals. We explore together as friends. And whatever we find, we will face it together. Lieutenant Na was chosen as the primary pilot. At 31, she was young for such responsibility, but her skills were unmatched. She stood on the bridge, looking at her crew, humans and aliens working side by side, all wearing the same uniform, all committed to the same goal. "Does this frighten you?" an alien crew member asked her. He was from a species called the small blue beings who had been suppressed by the Council's rules for generations. "Yes," Na admitted honestly. "We might fail, we might discover nothing, we might face dangers we cannot imagine, but that is what exploration means. If we only went where we felt safe, we would never leave our home." The nodded, his large eyes showing understanding. My people have been safe for 3,000 years, he said quietly. And in all that time, we achieved nothing new. I would rather risk failure than guarantee mediocrity. Captain Jin stood with Commander on the station's observation deck, watching the intergalactic ship undergo final preparations. Do you think this will work? Jin asked. True cooperation between species who were rivals only a year ago. I do not know, replied honestly, but I know that trying is better than not trying. The Council kept peace through control and limitation. We are trying something different, peace through shared purpose and mutual respect. Doctor made one final broadcast before the ship departed. Her face appeared on screens across the galaxy, transmitted on every channel. She looked even more tired than before, but her eyes held determination. To anyone watching this, she said, I want to explain why we are doing this. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council explored this galaxy. They did good work. They found many worlds. They built a civilization that lasted longer than most. But then they stopped. They became comfortable. They chose safety over growth, control over freedom, stagnation over risk. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Humanity could have accepted that. We could have stayed within the Council's boundaries, followed their rules, and lived safe, comfortable lives. But we chose differently. We chose to take risks, to fail and learn, to push boundaries. And now we invite anyone brave enough to join us. The journey to Andromeda will be dangerous. Some of us might not return, but those who do will carry back knowledge that could change everything. And for those who choose to stay safe, we understand. Not everyone needs to be an explorer, but please do not try to stop those who are. The launch day arrived. Thousands of people gathered on the neutral station to watch the departure. Council delegates stood alongside human representatives. Old rivals stood as new partners. The mood was strange, part celebration, part farewell, part fear of the unknown. Admiral Wu stood on the bridge as the final countdown began. Lieutenant Nu's hands moved across her controls with practiced ease. The crew members from 5 different species stood at their stations, each one chosen for their skills and their courage. All systems ready, Admiral, Nu reported. Then let us begin, Wu said simply. The ship's engines powered up, creating a field of energy that bent space itself. For a moment, the vessel seemed to shimmer and fade. Then, in a flash of light that could be seen across the system, it vanished. The first intergalactic expedition in galactic history had begun. On the neutral station, Commander stood with Ambassador, both watching the empty space where the ship had been. What have we done? Whispered. We have sent people to another galaxy on human technology that we barely understand. We have taken the first step toward something new, replied. For 10,000 years, the galaxy knew only the Council's way. Now there are other paths, other possibilities. Some will lead to failure, some to success. But all of them lead forward, and that is what matters. Join them at the observation window. The Council will never be the same, she said. Already, 30 species are petitioning for the right to pursue their own paths like humanity did. They want to explore, to innovate, to take risks. Will the Council allow it? Asked. Smiled, a strange expression on her silver face. The Council has no choice. Humanity proved that independence is possible. They proved that innovation is possible. They proved that the old ways are not the only ways, that knowledge cannot be unlearned. Far away, traveling faster than light toward another galaxy, Lieutenant Nu sat at her pilot station and smiled. Behind her, Admiral Wu commanded the bridge with steady authority. Around her, crew members from 6 different species worked together seamlessly. Ahead of her, the universe waited with all its mysteries and dangers and possibilities. How long until we reach Andromeda? Someone asked. 3 months, Nu replied. Maybe less if I can optimize the jump calculations. And what do you think we will find there? Nu's smile widened. I do not know, that is the point, that is why we go. The ship flew on through the darkness between galaxies, carrying with it the hopes of everyone brave enough to dream. Behind them, the Milky Way galaxy continued its ancient dance, forever changed by a young species that refused to accept limitations. And somewhere on Earth, in a small apartment overlooking the construction yards, a young engineer sat at her computer designing the next generation of ships, ships that would go even farther, ships that would reach even more impossible places, because that was what humans did. They pushed forward, they took risks, they chose their own path. And now they did not walk that path alone.